We can all agree that drawing hands is basically like that knife game, but for artists. Sometimes it goes well and you get zero recognition, and sometimes you lose a finger and you get called an idiot. You've probably already watched some other tutorials that talk about how you can simplify the hand to a box and then attach the fingers to the end. This isn't what I'm going to talk about. Instead, I want to talk about how the movement of the hand affects what the form looks like, and specifically, there are two types of movement that change what the hand looks like: the finger movement and the thumb movement. First, the finger movement. The fingers consist of three bones called phalanges. We have the proximal, middle, and distal phalanx. The way these move is the phalanx rotates around the tip of the previous phalanx. There's one really important thing that can happen when these things move, and that's that they can make an extra plane visible. When the fingers are straight, all we have to do is draw the top and bottom planes of every phalanx. But when a phalanx rotates down, it exposes this plane of the previous phalanx, and now we get three planes. This is something that people commonly leave out, and this will make the fingers appear too pointy, and they'll also lose their three-dimensionality. This same thing with the extra planes also happens at the tip of the fingers. The tip isn't a point. We can see a top, front, and bottom plane. So we have to use three lines to express this. And depending on the angle, we might even have to use 4 lines. This is why it's so important to think about the fingers in terms of boxes, because then you can actually see the planes. Of course, the fingers themselves are a bit rounder than boxes, but the boxes are still the best guidelines you can use to draw those planes correctly. Or in other words, you should not use cylinders if you can't keep track of how the cylinder is rotated. So when you see people draw just the outlines of the fingers, they're taking all of these plane changes into account instead of just drawing a top and a bottom plane. Now the second thing is the thumb movement. The thumb is made up of the metacarpal and 2 phalanges. The metacarpal is attached here, and unlike the metacarpals of the fingers, which make up the palm, this one is able to move independently from the other ones. In its default position, the metacarpal is sitting away from the palm, and the top plane of the thumb will be pointing up almost in the same direction as the other fingers. When the thumb moves into the palm, the whole thumb rotates, meaning the top plane of the thumb will now be facing down. The metacarpal of the thumb is moving in an arc for this movement, so sometimes the side of the palm will look like this, where it's completely flat, because the metacarpal is sitting on top of the palm. And sometimes the thumb will be sticking out, which can make the palm appear wider, and then if we're looking at it from this angle with the thumb slightly rotated down, we get a much more three-dimensional looking palm. And of course, from this angle, the thumb will be pointing to the side instead of up or down. The other thing is that we have this piece of skin that attaches the thumb to the palm. This skin stretches along with the thumb and connects it to the index finger. So if we have to draw the hand from this angle, for example, we have to draw that connection. So the palm itself can't really move. We can always draw it as this boxy shape, and then for the thumb, we need to think about where the metacarpal is in space, which technically shouldn't be that difficult because it can only move along one path. And then we need to draw that piece of skin to connect the metacarpal back to the palm. Alright, let's practice this now, and we're going to pay attention to the things that I talked about, meaning the finger movement and the thumb movement, as well as the direction that the fingers are facing, as well as the direction the thumb is facing. In this image, we don't have to deal with the fingers being bent, so we just have one line for the front plane, but at the tips of the fingers, we can see the other planes. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And then for the thumb, it's sticking all the way out, so instead of the palm being kind of a square shape, we now have this. Also keep in mind that the top plane of the thumb is pointing in a slightly different direction than the top plane of all of the other fingers. So for drawing the hand, usually what I do is draw a sort of two-dimensional guideline, while it is three-dimensional. And then for the fingers, I just kind of outline them with singular lines. The thumb is slightly sticking out, so that's going to be over there. With the way the thumb is sticking out in this image, we can see a line going from the wrist all the way to where the knuckle of the metacarpal is, and then from there it goes to where the actual thumb is. And we also have that flesh that's connecting the index finger to the thumb, and it's creating an overlapping fold in this area. So we have the wrist going to the metacarpal, we have the overlapping fold right here, and then for the thumb, we actually do have multiple planes on it. We have one line here, we can sort of see a line going this way, then we have the plane that's going down, or the edge that's going down, and then we have another line going this way. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then the index finger, same thing, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Middle finger is also the same thing, 1, 2, 3, and 4. In this, I'm also keeping the fingers kind of blocky. If you want, you can make them a bit, or you can make the tips of the fingers a bit more pointy to make them more accurate. But for practice purposes, I think it's better to clearly outline where those planes are so that you actually know that you have drawn them and that you've drawn them correctly. And then when you're actually making an artwork, you can kind of just draw them however you want. Right here, we've only drawn the outlines, but the hand is three-dimensional. From the palm itself, we can see a very clear front plane right here. So we do need to draw that, and the way that you can do that is by using overlap. The middle finger will overlap the webbing right there. Same thing with the ring finger, will slightly overlap the webbing. The pinky finger will also overlap the webbing. Then we can also draw the fingernails to make it clear what direction the fingers are pointing. Another thing to point out is that the fingers are not actually straight lines. You can see that they get thicker towards the knuckle areas. So we have skinny line, thick line, again goes skinny, and then it gets thicker again near the tip. Usually when drawing feminine hands, and especially when you're drawing them close up, you want to have those variations in thickness because it makes the hand look more feminine. Whereas if you're drawing more masculine hands, you kind of just want to have the line be one continuous line. In this reference, the fingers are bent, so we do have to take the three-dimensionality of the fingers into account instead of just treating them like one straight line going this way and then the straight line going back. Right here we can see one line going this way and then it's going down, which is pretty standard, but then right here we have a line that's going this way and then it's going back into space. Same thing for this finger, we have a line going this way and this way, which is pretty standard, but then it's going this way and then it goes back into space. With the pinky, it's the same thing. We have two lines, which are going this way, that's pretty standard, but then we have a third line which defines that three-dimensionality, and then we get the tip, which is also three-dimensional in this case. So I'm gonna start with some guidelines for the palm. I think the palm is kept pretty square in this case. We have the thumb sticking out, which means the metacarpal is pointing that way. So we would have a shape like this. And then the thumb is going to be sticking out this way. We have the flesh connecting it back to the index finger, creating that overlapping fold in that area. Then right here we would have the knuckles of the index, middle, ring, and then the pinky finger one is kind of invisible. One line going this way, one going down, and then right here we have this line going this way, and then the finger goes back into the palm. For the middle finger, it's the same thing. We have the line going this way, and then we can go back up to the knuckle. Then for the ring finger, it's kind of the same thing, but all the way at the tip. We can actually see the tip of the finger right there. We have the top knuckle right there, and then for the pinky, we have the line going this way. Then we have the line that defines the three-dimensionality. So we can start with the line for the thumb. Then go up to draw the actual thumb. With how the thumb is positioned here, we can only see 3 lines. We have one line going this way, then the line that defines the side, and then this one. In this particular area, there's also a lot of overlap going on because the hand is, or well, I guess the fingers are folding down, and this causes the top part of the hand to essentially fold in on itself. So you get an overlapping fold right here, which is the top part of the palm folding in on itself, and then you have another fold right here, which is the finger folding into the palm, and then of course you have the folds of the finger folding in on itself. I would also recommend not directly connecting the knuckle to the finger and instead leaving a small gap here, because the shadow does kind of end right here, and instead just leave the gap and draw the outline of the knuckles. Then for the middle knuckle, same thing, I'd recommend leaving a gap in that area. Make sure you draw the side plane right there. For the pinky finger right here, I would suggest drawing the fingernail as well, just to show where the top plane of the tip of the finger starts. When it comes to hand poses, I think this might be one of the harder ones, specifically because of how the fingers are bent. It causes the knuckles to have this plane change right here, where we go from front to down. This plane change of the knuckle is really hard to show with just lines, because lines are used for dark shadows, like for example right here. But this isn't a very dark shadow, it's just a plane change. So if you use a line to show that, it looks a little bit weird, so you might have to use shading for that. And that's it for this video. Let me know in the comments what you want to see next. Also, be sure to check out this week's homework video, which is linked on screen right now. You can check out the YouTube memberships, which are linked in the description if you'd like to support the channel, and I guess I will catch you all next time.